What's up, guys? I'm not going to go back and review every use of force that we've had since COVID started. Um, in my opinion, the ones that are, the most prevalent on everyone's mind have already been talked about a lot. 99.9% of the time, I'm going to side with the law enforcement officer. I've got a lot of friends and family members who either are or were police officers. I was in corrections. I have a BAS in justice administration, so I did crime scene investigation, forensics, criminology, all the different classes to get me that degree. So I'm not on the job, but I'm also not a complete layman when it comes to use of force. And we had force escalation training even in the military. So in corrections, we're not dealing with the public, we are dealing with offenders. But that could get you in as much or even more trouble than dealing with the public sometimes. So I'm not going to go over all the different shootings. In my opinion, the ones that we have had, when more information comes out and we know more about the actual details of the case, most of them, and this is going to be unpopular, but depending upon what circle of friends you're with, but most of the situations that we've had that people are angry and upset about have been justifiable uses of force. The exception to that is George Floyd. I was never taught to put my knee on the back of someone's neck, when dealing with, taking a prisoner in the military or dealing with an offender as a corrections officer. So I've never known that to be common practice. My friends that I have in law enforcement have never mentioned that as being common practice. So that is a situation. I will say that all of the situations that we have had, the law enforcement officers did have a reason for dealing with the person involved. Even in George Floyd's case, George Floyd, known to have a drug history. He was not an unviolent offender when he did commit crimes. There is that one case in particular that I know of where it says that the report on his record says that him and his friends broke into a pregnant lady's house and he put a gun to her stomach while his friends robbed her. And it was probably for drug money. I didn't read further into that case because that's, to me, is absolutely sickening. And when they were called to the George Floyd case, he was high. He did have, some type of substance. It was a white powder. I stopped following it because there are a lot more educated, a lot more experienced people than me dealing with getting y'all that information. But, he wasn't an angel, but he also didn't deserve what happened to him. All the other ones that I can think of were justifiable uses of force. The one I wanted to speak to is one that I saw last night on social media. There were a few things going on. Different groups like the Daily Wire had the article on their stream. Even some people I know here in town, and there were a lot of people upset about it because it was a high school football game and there was a mother there watching a student athlete, and she was tased and arrested. I watched the video, and what a lot of people don't understand about this from the very beginning, and being an educator and being someone who also has a criminal justice background, I'm looking at this from two different angles. So what a lot of people don't understand is that while, yes, a school is paid for by taxpayer funds, it is not open to public use however you want to use it, like a park or a city street or a public beach. And even those have rules. A public, a place that's public property that is like a school or a courthouse, it's run by a public entity. That does not mean you have the right to just go on and do whatever you feel like. So that's why a school can enforce a dress code. Even for parents, when they go to events, they can enforce a code of conduct. And it's what allows the safety of those students and the faculty members on that property. So a lot of people were mad because they're like, that was public property, and you know, she's a taxpayer, so she paid their salary, and that's nonsense. So the actual situation was, she was at a football game and she refused to wear a mask. She was told multiple times that she needed to wear a mask, and then the law enforcement officer on duty at that sporting event told her she needed to wear a mask. In the video, there is a man in a purple shirt with a lanyard on, and that man is a school representative. He is probably a principal, an administrator, or a coach of some sort who has the authority to say this person's no longer welcome here. And they can ban you for the entire school year, maybe even longer. But in the video, there's the police officer and there's the school representative. The police officer said, put on the mask, and she refused again. So they said, leave. She refused to leave. So at that point, you're trespassing, because even though it's public, it is only public because it's run by a public entity, being the school district. So if you are on school property without permission at that point, you are trespassing. And the officer then went to arrest her. He's trying to arrest her. There's a woman who's trying to interfere with that, and they don't even actually do anything to her. So, you know, they continually try to get her into handcuffs so they can escort her out. It's one officer and the administrator standing there watching. So if the administrator said, you know what, this is going too far, I don't want to deal with the backlash of this, they could have stopped it at any moment and said, you know what, let's go ahead and let her stay. And they didn't do that. So they wanted her gone. And when you are trespassing, law enforcement does have the right to arrest you. But the problem that we had is a problem that we see a lot more nowadays than when any point in our history that I can remember, where people feel like they have the right to resist arrest. Whether you feel you're justified in your actions or not, when the officer says you're under arrest, you need to submit to restraints. And if the officer is in error, you can talk to their supervisor, you can file a complaint, you can sue the city, you can do all kinds of things. But if you resist arrest, the officer will escalate force as necessary to gain compliance. So he tried several times, a lot, like way more than I think he really had to. You know, he was being very patient, trying to get her into restraints, and she wouldn't submit. So he tased her to gain that compliance. He then got her into handcuffs and drug her off property. A lot of people are angry about this, but as far as every use of force training I've ever heard of, went through personally, it escalated the way it was supposed to. And on top of that, had she complied at any point prior to this, she would not have been tased. She was on school property, so they have the right to enforce dress code. A mask is considered part of the dress code. Depending upon where you live, it can also be a city or state ordinance that you have to wear the mask. So if she had put the mask on when a school representative had asked her, wouldn't have happened. Had she complied with the officer telling her to put on the mask, it wouldn't have happened. And had she left when they said, okay, well, if you're not going to follow the rules, leave, nothing further would have happened. But the second she said, no, I'm not leaving, well, now she's under arrest. And when she decided to resist arrest, it caused the escalation in force. So in this situation, the school district was not wrong for asking her to wear a mask or to leave. They are doing that for the students and what they feel best, and to protect everybody who's there at that sporting event. And because it is run by a public entity and not the same as a public beach or a road or a park, they do get to make those rules. People are mad at the officer because he tased her and he arrested her. That's exactly, he was following pretty much textbook protocol from what I can see. I mean, he didn't even put her in a joint manipulation to try and gain compliance. You know, he went for the taser, which, I mean, it stinks when it happens, but once it's done, it's done. If he'd have tried a joint manipulation or something like that to try and gain compliance, he could have hurt her in a more long-term or permanent, depending upon his level of training and lack of training. So you put someone in an arm bar incorrectly, you can really jack them up. Pepper spray, you know, he could have pepper sprayed her. But when you use pepper spray, you're getting everybody in the area. And a lot of people I know are not fans of pepper spray. And it's because of that reason, because it's an aerosol. So the police officer would have got some of the pepper spray, the district personnel would have got some of the pepper spray. The lady that was trying not to have, I guess it was her friend or her relative, get arrested, she would have got some of it, and anyone that it would have blown over to. So it's a good crowd control measure, but not if you are trying to just get one individual. So the taser was the best option in that case. Like it or not, whether you approve of masks or not, in this situation, that lady was the one in the wrong. So, I mean, that's my take on the situation. I appreciate y'all watching, and you know, you can probably find the video on YouTube. It's all over social media right now, but it's the label that I saw was high school mom gets tased and arrested for not wearing mask. So this is Van on the Loose. Y'all like, subscribe, and share, and we'll talk to you again next time.